Hello and welcome to GreenZone, Ireland's favourite American football podcast. I am your host, Chris. Declan was here. He's now back. He just dropped out at the worst possible time. We're joined this week by Alan from the Cork Admirals and Eoin from UCD. We're going to be going quick fire now. We're not going to talk shite for an hour and a half like we normally do. We're just going to get straight into it. Also, I just realized I didn't say Dave was here. Dave's here.
They know I'm here. I'm right in front of them. It's fine.
Dave's always here. So as I said, no arsing around, no talking shite. Let's just get straight into it. Coach Allen, thank you for taking the time to join us. 24-24. No, I don't think anyone saw that coming. UL had scores late in the game from Ira Hanlon, Aidan Maher, and Finn O'Donovan with a Russian touchdown as well, and Oisin Walsh with a touchdown. And on the Cork side, we had scores. And I'm probably going to get all these names wrong. Fionnan Cremin?
Fionnan
Cremin. And then we've got Aaron Hogan with a touchdown. We have Declan May with a touchdown.
Declan had 2 touchdowns. Aaron had a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and Jake Kennedy was just slinging them for fun.
Yeah.
So he was, despite what some people on this show may have said that he wasn't ready for. So, Alan, in your own words, how'd it go?
It was in one of those, as the old adage goes, game of 2 halves.
Yeah.
Both teams came out, fired up early, to be fair. We got on top of it. We got some good runs, some good passes in early. And it was going well. I mean, anytime you go up 24-0 and someone, it's going well. And then look, a few things happened. Poor Fionnan tore his hamstring. And a couple of other things went against us. And all credit to Limerick. They came back the second half. They had a strip sack or a strip fumble on one of our kick returns and returned it for a touchdown. And that was a big swing of the game. And, as I said, listen, they're a good team. They kept working hard. And, they leveled it up at the end. And, as I mean, when you come up from Division 1 to the top division, everybody thinks, you're in the lower division, it's going to be a lot tougher. I think it was the same with Louth or with Westmeath last year. Teams are a lot more prepared for coming up now than they were before. It's not such a big a jump. The talent level isn't as far away as people seem to think. And look, the level of football has increased massively in Ireland, especially in the last 5 or 6 years. The level of knowledge in players, the level of knowledge of coaches, and that translates into what you see on the field. And, as I said, all credit to Limerick, put in a great game. And, listen, it could have gone either way there on the fourth. We had a chance there. We were on there 20 with a minute and a bit to go. It's just one of those games where, everyone needs to go back and look at the tape, get back to practice, work harder, and look on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones, the game, they tied you up before they took the extra point attempt.
Yeah.
What was going through your head then as you're seeing them going like, hang on a second, are we about to throw this away completely?
No, because I suppose, look, if you're confident in your kicking game, why didn't you kick earlier? So
True.
The way I looked at it going, well, listen, they've gone for 2 already and now they're trying to kick. So that means they mustn't be that confident in their kicking game. It was windy, so I wasn't overly concerned. And look, to be honest, there was still time in the clock at that stage, and Jake had been playing very well. I mean, again, a lot of people were saying he wasn't ready for that kind of a game, and to be QB1 for us is look, we haven't had many QB1s over the years. You could probably count them on 2 hands since the club started, and for Jake to come in and take that on, he was playing well, so I was more than confident in him that we could go down the field and score if that happened.
Yeah, like it was one of those things that I think Jake did get a hard paper round in the week leading up, but I think when you're comparing him to someone like Stephen, it's
yeah.
Look, no matter how good you are,
Yeah, Steve has been a long-term member of the Admirals, and I mean he's been one of the top quarterbacks in the league for a long, long time. Which you've also got to bear in mind who's Jake learning from.
True, very true.
And Jake is a great arm. He is one of the best knowledges for the game I've ever come across. The guy's got a ridiculous memory for football. So yeah, he's not. This is not too big for him at all.
No. So what's the feeling in the camp now? Yeah, you've come out to start the season with a draw. Better than a loss, but not what you wanted going into it.
Yeah, look, I mean, draws in football is weird. I mean, as I said, I think I'm involved with the Admirals since the team started, and I think that's maybe my 4th ever tie. In a couple of 150 games or whatever it is over the years. Look, it's just there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to go back now and keep going. Everybody takes one game at a time. No matter who it is. If you're looking 3 or 4 games ahead of what you think you're going to be doing at the end of the season, you're not doing it right. Like, so, listen, we're going to go back and practice and get ready and try and get a few more guys healthy that were missing yesterday, and be ready for 3 weeks' time. Nothing more than that, really.
I'm looking at Dave here.
No, Chris, you were just like carrying it out, and I was just letting you.
Yeah, and I was aware I was carrying over. I was like, Dave.
No, but you didn't give me a chance.
That was your chance, man.
How long has Jack been around? And like, I know he's been the Hounds youth quarterback for a few years. Like, how long has he been around the game of American football?
See, Jake played youth football for us. Jake won a championship, if not 2 championships with us, youth football as well.
Yeah.
So he's, you know what I mean. So he's only 20 now, but I mean he's playing football since he was 16.
Yeah.
I mean he yeah. I mean look, he's first. Well, he started in place of Steve a couple of times last year, but I mean like he also played against Naples in Dublin there in August, and I mean. That was another tough game, and he played against Filton Academy in Bristol in November as well. So, he's well used to defenses coming at him. Like
he's probably more experienced than a lot of quarterbacks in the league already playing against some of these.
He probably is. Defenses. Like I mean, he's seen a lot of defenses in the last 12 months there that probably a lot of people would never have seen yet.
It was sort of the thing, like for myself anyway, like I'll be the first to admit, obviously you hear Hayes was one of the top quarterbacks, and then when you hear someone, he's being replaced, you're just like, who's Jack? How good is he going to be? Yeah. But it's just ignorance. Yeah. I'll call it myself. Yeah. It's ignorance. I have no idea.
You can't know everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's plenty. I mean, look, I obviously see lots of guys at the Admirals level, but I also see lots of guys from the under-19s level. So, but you still don't know everyone, and just, we're not replacing Steve. Steve is hurt.
Yeah.
And when he's
at
back,
least you have someone reliable.
When Steve is ready to be back and he's healed again, then I'll have a good decision to make.
Is there a time frame on that, or is that cards to your chest?
It's whatever the health people are saying to him, It's nothing to do with. We're not obviously going to rush him into whatever. Whenever he's ready, he's ready.
We'll put him down on the injury report as questionable.
Questionable
every week.
Questionable.
Questionable means don't put him in your fantasy team unless you have nobody else to put in there.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're more than happy that we have Jake, and and again. Whether it is in the NFL or in our league, having a solid backup or a solid guy to go to revert to, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
I'll row in behind that comment. Yeah, it's me on our team.
It's just that you don't have to adjust everything to suit someone else. I mean, like when we were in IFL 1 in 2016, we went through 7 quarterbacks that year.
Oh,
Steve broke his leg in the second game, and then the next guy got hurt, and the next guy got hurt, and then Steve came back for the final. So, So like it's you got to adapt to who you have as well as, but look, when you have a quality backups and quality guys that can step up and take over, then it's a huge advantage. And every team, I mean, Owen, you probably have the same, and you've got guys there that get hurt and you've got to bring in a guy and he has to step up and he has to make the next jump. It's all part of being a football player and getting better as you get further on in your career. Like,
yeah, that is one of the difference makers in SBC versus D1. You need to have depth at this level.
Huge.
Whereas if you're shallow on depth in D1, you can get away with it, so you can. But it's a lot more important as you go up.
Oh, listen, at the top division there, I mean, you have to have backups and the backup plan in place for when you have to put these guys in, so that if you know that guy needs to step up, you need to make sure he knows what he's doing, and it's just part of the coaching plan and process that you go through every year.
Yeah,
I think that's.
In the interest of balance here, Chris, probably mention UL and their efforts a little as well. We know from last week, UL have bodies to come back. So looking forward, those guys are going to be looking at this division, licking their chops, going, we can take some scalps here.
For sure.
Listen, I was saying that they're a solid team. They had good numbers there yesterday. They have a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
A lot of young guys, and that's I suppose that's one thing where a lot of young guys, they don't know any better. They're just going to go out and play ball. There's no fear. There's no thinking. They just go out and they play ball, and that's a great thing to have. And every team needs to keep bringing in new guys every year to try and keep the blood fresh and keep the tempo up and stuff like that. So, I think they have a few bodies to come back, and I think that there's certainly no pushover on it. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. I think that's probably a good place to leave it, as we are quick fire green zone now.
So, just the 2 minutes over.
No, I had a 2-minute intro. It's okay. It's okay. We're still on schedule. We're still on schedule. But Al, listen, thank you so much for taking the time to come over this evening. Good luck with UCD in a few weeks. I think we see you the week after, don't we?
It's 1 week or 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
I guess we
down in Cork. Yeah,
because that's what I was going to say. I mean, must have been so nice to have an away game that was an hour up the road.
It's different. Yeah, it's different. It's
one
nice.
Game of Mafia, and that's it.
Yeah. We were home nice and early last night. No, to be fair,
you'll be looking for Wexford to go up. So that'll be another game that isn't a million miles
Wexford
away.
Let me just clarify this, because we get this in our for our TPOs all the time. Everybody thinks Cork to Wexford is a short trip. It's a horrible spin. It's a horrible trip from Cork to Wexford. We would always rather go to Belfast or Dublin than go to Wexford. Awful. So if Steve Moles is listening, Steve, stop sending our TPOs down to Wexford.
Yes, give them a 1 p.m. kickoff in Belfast.
No, that's probably a small bit early, but still.
Well, you're welcome and loud. You get a pizza afterwards.
Yeah, there you go.
But yes, thank you again, Alan. We shall move on to the next game of this weekend. And we're going to jump down to Division 1, where the Antrim Jets started their rebuild career against an ever-going NI Razorbacks. Jets, unfortunately, came away with 0, but the Razorbacks put on a bit of a show for everyone. We had Danny Moles, defensive end. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. We had Dean McNeil with a touchdown. We had Mark Thompson with a touchdown. We had Stu Wiley with 2-point conversions all over the show. We had Jimmy McLean with an interception. Actually, that's just an interception, not a touchdown. Ben Braniff with a second-half touchdown. Jimmy McLean with 2-point conversion. Dean McNeil with another touchdown. James Earl with a touchdown. James Cameron with a touchdown, who I've been told his nickname is Avatar on the team, which I thought was good. And finally, Duncan McGuire with a touchdown. Or is it PAT? Sorry, there's just so many names, so many.
No, PAT's Dean, because Dean's the kicker. So
Dean's PAT
scored the PAT, but Duncan's got the touchdown.
Listen, there's about 70 names there, so half the whole Razorback squad. But Dave, we were there. We got to watch our old team drink against our old rivals. Tell us a bit about it.
Like everyone's talking, like, are the Jets going to fold? What are we going to see if they do play? And in the first half, I think it was 15-0 in the first half, but I think all of us that were sitting in the wee stand at Newfords was like, this isn't what we were expecting. Jets, I think, got a couple of picks in the first half, and they were in the red zone a couple of times. I don't think they had a kicker. I know they didn't have their normal kicker, Connor Davidson. So when they got into the red zone, there was no chance of kicking. They were going up for it on fourth down. And there was a couple of times Scott, I feel like they were on the 5-yard line and Scott had a man in the end zone for a touchdown, and it could have been 15-7 in the first half. And if we had sent that as a score update, I think the whole league, or whoever actually looks at Division 1 score lines or whatever, would have been like, hang on a minute, what's going on? The Razorbacks are going to be this up-and-coming team, and the Jets are right down at the bottom. But yeah, I was actually really excited for the second half because I was really surprised with what the Jets brought. And the Razorbacks were making some little mistakes here and there. And I think we were talking to Suntan after the game, and I think he maybe gave a reason why there might have been a bit of a confusion on their end. I'll not say why, but there might have been a bit of confusion.
Well, they didn't run their starters. They ran their starters for the first play, then sent the backups in, which is a bit of a I wasn't
going to say why, but okay.
Well, that's a lot better than what I assumed, which was there was a party the night before. Yeah.
No, there just seemed to be a bit more like conservative plays from the Razorbacks, and there was fumbles, and there was just players not really reacting to the ball quick enough, which is kind of not what you expect from Suntan's Razorbacks since he's come in. And the Jets just, were keeping in there, and that, I think people were fully expecting it to be 35-0 by the half, running clock for the whole second half. But that wasn't the case. When the second half happened, I think legs caught up to the Jets, and they just got bowled over. I think there was the fumble recovery at the very start of the second half. And the Razorbacks got a touchdown straight away, and then it just got worse and worse. And the second half was over in essentially about 45 minutes because it got up to 34-0 and it was a running clock. But I think, there was there's a lot of Jets players who are rookies. They kind of looked a bit
good few injuries as well.
Good few injuries, yeah. Chris's brother being one of them got a wee injury there.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's okay.
Stu McFadden, I think his knee's gone.
Yeah. Declan, it's fine. I have a dog. It's exactly the same. But there was a lot of rookies there, and they looked maybe a bit disappointed and everything. But if they have a good core players, if they can just add a few more, we're having a little.
Deck has a really nice kitchen.
A house tour here from Deck. Love it.
For those listening on Apple and Spotify, you're not really missing that much.
If the Jets can just add a couple of good players in and around that, they have something there. Like the rookie running back. Now we were there with a couple more Trojans, and he did this really good run right up the gut, which the Jets have been struggling with in recent years. Normally they're a very outside run team. Run right up the gut. And I was like, geez, hold on a minute here. And he was clean through, and then he fumbled the ball. But the rookie running back has never played any hand coordination sports. He's never played rugby. He's never played Gaelic. He's only played a wee bit of soccer, a wee bit of football. So that's just showing that inexperience. But there's something there. You can see the 44-0 and think, oh, they're rubbish. They're going to get hammered every week. But there's something there. And if they can keep their heads up and keep progressing, they'll do fine. With the Razorbacks, first half, gotta say, and I think I'm not the only one, and I think even themselves, very poor, a lot of mistakes. But as soon as the second half came around, they just completely got a chokehold of the Jets, and they showed what potential they have. And it it ended up being an expectable score. Expectable score? Expectable? Is that a word?
No.
I think you know what I mean. Anyway, expected score. I think it was an expected scoreline, but it wasn't the whole story. That's my wee blurb anyway, even though it was 10 minutes long of just no questions.
No, it wasn't because we started that one late. But no, like the Hogs got a dose of halftime Coach Miller pep talk. So they did. Yeah. Gareth Miller, known for his cool, calm, and collected, patient personality. But yeah, like we were chatting to him afterwards. Like, Gareth's a lovely fella, but he must have just turned around those boys and went, "What the fuck are you doing?" Maybe slightly more animated than I'm coming across now. And it worked. Like there was two different teams that came out from the first half to the second half. And as I said, Jets just low numbers, rookies, injuries. It's the trifecta of bad luck. So it is.
Yeah.
So we bounce over to the other side of D1, where our very own head coach, host, close personal friend, Declan Mulvihill, lined up with, how many guys did you have on Sunday?
28 and a half.
28 and a half brave Mavericks. And which was very slow to start. All the action kind of came in the second half. But yeah, so Louth, they fired 34 points against Wexford 19. We had scores from Jack Compton, Alan Minto, Dan Finley, Eamon Ward. With Dan Finley in there again. I'm not seeing your name here, Dick. On Wexford's side, we had Aidan Jennings with a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Luke Fitzpatrick with a Russian touchdown, and Paddy, I'm not going to say that surname, with a Russian touchdown. Dick, how'd it go?
Exactly as you think going on the score. It was a fairly true telling of the game. So I know that we were going into it. Les Mavericks as heavy favourites. Well, maybe not heavy, but favourites.
100% win chance.
I saw somebody on another podcast call Eagles. Anyway, I'm coming after that guy. No, the story of the game is as the scores went. We went up by a touchdown at the close to the end of the second quarter, but up until then it was back and forth. We would drive between the 20s, end up having to take a penalty and punt. They were doing similar things. We suspected that they'd come out with run heavy and hide and seek kind of an offense, and that's what came out. So we were expecting it, but they equally seemed to expect what we were going to do, and we cancelled each other out for the best part of a half of football. Now, I don't know if you remember us last year, but I don't even know who we started off against, but we started identically. We came into the first game of the season, and it took us a good 3 quarters to get going nearly. But in this game, once we did get going, we got to the half, and we had our team talk and adjusted a couple of things that we saw we could take advantage of, and we put the pedal down coming out of the gates in the second half, and it was just bang, 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 3 touchdowns, and managed to then put in a few rookies, blood some players, but we had a very, very important team talk on the sideline at one stage in the third, after we had scored our third touchdown, about we're going to put in some of you new guys, let's just have a bit of fun, but we do not let up out of respect to that other team, because they are trying their damnedest, and their damnedest tries pulled off some touchdowns in the end. So we made it very clear that we weren't taking our foot off the pedal, because that's just not what we do. So it was the Eagles coming good rather than us taking a tumble down with inexperience or letting our heads drop or anything, concentration go. It was the Eagles came good. So we handed them the ball at one stage through a mishandling of a handoff in the backfield, but they had a guy on the toes of our quarterback and running back's mesh point, so they were in the position to pick it up. Did really well running it in from there. As I say, the scores told the story of the game. It's a shame we don't have our fourth host here as
We were relying on Eoin for score updates.
If I'm entirely honest, Chris, even though I was head coach of the losing my mind on the sideline, I was asking Eoin what the score was at different times.
It was so weird because the Mavericks have this reputation, of course, from last season, the season before, of just being score hounds.
High octane.
Go out and throw them for fun. And I'm messaging Eoin being like what's going on here? And
why are you not doing your job?
We're like, oh, clearly there's no signal. And then he puts an update 7-0 like in the second quarter, and we're like, oh, either the Eagles came to play or there's something really wrong with the Mavs. And then halftime came around, or just after halftime, it's like, oh wait, no, they're back.
Yeah, I was after the game, I did look through Instagram for our Instagram stories and all after I get back into the locker room, and it was all the scores coming in. I would flick between games. Rebels UCD comes up quite often. Cork scoring early, and then Limerick scored late. And then just in the third quarters, as everywhere starts, it's Mavericks. So, that is exactly how it happened. We saw a weakness that we thought we could take advantage. We edited our game plan. We took advantage of it. But therein lies the difference between a team that's been in this division for ages and a team that's just come into it. They were a little slow to adjust to the thing that we were taking advantage of, but I guarantee that won't happen twice. And they're too clever. They're too quick at learning to let that happen twice. So I'm glad we got the Eagles when we did, because I think after a few games in this division, injuries aside and bad luck aside, as you say, I think the Eagles are well fit for D1. Well fit for it.
Yeah.
They'll be eyeing up that fourth place spot, at least, I'd say, coming into the last half of our season.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, actually, because obviously when we got the score updates, and when it was 34-0, wasn't it? And then Wexford got 19 unanswered points. When it was 34-0, it's kind of like, but the Mavericks are the Mavericks. Mavericks do this to a lot of really good teams. It doesn't really answer the question, where do you place the Eagles? But the fact that they've scored 19 unanswered points, yes, you're putting in reserves and things like that. But it shows, like, I'm trying to think what team even they're comparable to last year. I keep thinking the Jets, but that's not true. But in a way,
we didn't come up with a good comparison, but we kind of put them where the Razorbacks were last year. Where,
yes.
You know what I'm saying about that kind of thing, where they look like on any given week they could be number one, or they could struggle to make the playoffs. Like,
yeah, like that, because I think a lot of other podcasts, and us included, don't really know where they fit, because obviously they came into Division 2 and they ran the table, and it was no issue to them. But the fact that they were able to come back and claw back in their first game back against one of the top teams, one of the favorites for it, shows, hang on, they probably are in that top 4, as you say, playoff spots.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see, because I was kind of, because obviously they're a team, you can't really hate them. They have so much good traditions, and they've got so much good playbook. They've got such a good playbook and everything. Just to Coach K, to see them put up the points again, you're like, okay, no, they're going to be a good outfit, and whoever gets them next, it's going to be tough. I don't know who they have.
I actually don't know who the Eagles have next either. I know we have a 3-week break now before Craigavon, but sure, we can preview that when it comes around. It'd be interesting to see now the second week of fixtures when you're in our shoes looking at Craigavon Derry. But everything you're saying is correct. Nobody will want to face the Eagles this year. As the year goes on, I think, injuries aside, they are only going to grow. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Eamon Ward got his obligatory pick 6 in the game, and also that one of their touchdowns, their first or maybe their second, was possibly my fault. So,
did you get that tape?
Well, I punted all game because we have a couple of GA players, but they were all like, I've never done this before. So I was like, right, I'm kind of injured, but I can still swing a leg. So I punted. So the whole game went fine, and punting as per usual. But last couple of minutes, then we were kind of backed up. So I was standing about 2 yards into my own end zone, and Dan Finley, with his superb knee and his other one that falls apart, had to go out, and he's our long snapper. So our centre gave it a bash, And between me and our centre, we managed to drop the ball in the end zone and leave it there.
And Aidan Jennings came across to touch it.
Yeah, there's a good photo that Eoin got. You'll see it on socials of me trying to hold it back one of the Wexford Eagles, not realizing there was a second Wexford Eagle literally beside him. Like, it was the most pointless holding attempt I've ever seen. But no, anyway, look, we're happy to be 1-0 as per the plan.
And congratulations on your first win as a head coach.
Oh, I've already texted all of the past head coaches of the Mavericks telling them I have a better win percentage than they do ever. Yeah.
Fantastic. But yes, I think we'll move on. At the 30-minute mark, I am astounded.
Going well.
I'm astounded. But yes, the big one, which was just an absolute shootout. Like at one stage, I was getting updates on my phone, and there was just a group of guys huddled around me to be like, right, what's going on? But yes, UCD by 2, 42 points to 40 against the Dublin Rebels. On the UCD side, we had Tom Donovan with 2 touchdowns, Rory O'Dwyer with 1, Jack Finnegan with 1. On kick return, Brandon Atwell had 2, or Brandon Atwell had 2 touchdowns. On the Rebels, we had 1 from Andre Barlafa, 3 from Dan Johnson, and 2 points from Greg Johnson. 2 rushing touchdowns from Ty Henry, who I hear a rumor that now that he's cut his hair, he's not as good.
That is not true. I can tell you that.
Nipped in the bud.
But Eoin, we weren't there. You were. Tell us how it went, bud.
Yeah, listen. So to everyone who hasn't met me before, Eoin Feely, I've been with UCD since 2008. Just about hanging on as a player.
You're not graduated yet.
Not quite. And listen, I think when it comes to the UCD Rebels, like say for playing for Ireland, which I have, which is an amazing feeling. I think playing in these games is by far the closest we can get. Right, like this was an 889-yard game offensively between the two teams. If this game is 30 seconds shorter, the Rebels win. If it was 30 seconds longer, the Rebels probably win as well. Right, they are the best team. I think last year they were 10 points short of setting an all-time scoring record, according to Andy Dennehy, who told me he owns the scoring record in 2012. So you know, these are a team that they don't have bad days. Like we broke Ty Henry's arm in the Yarmouth Bowl last year, and he played the rest of the game. They don't have bad games. They don't not perform. They're extremely consistent. And yeah, it's an awesome game every time. We get to play them 2 times a year at the moment, which is brilliant. And hopefully we'll both make the ball again. Sorry, Alan. And get to play them 2 or 3 times again next year, right? Because I think if you're in Ireland and you're not playing, if you're either on a team or you're a fan and your team isn't playing the week that the Rebels and UCD are playing, I'd recommend anyone to get down because they're always barnstorming games. I think someone did the stats. In the last 6 UCD Rebel games, the cumulative score is 208 to 203.
Oh,
most of these games end in like a 2 to 4 point swing. Right,
Chris, Eoin is currently putting us to shame here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is why he plays for one of the top 2 teams in the country.
Well, actually, is when I stopped coaching at UCD that got good, so I'm going to take the UCD is class now. Yeah. So listen, it was a brilliant game. It was super exciting. We're lucky to have one of the best players to ever play in Ireland, Tom Donovan. He's a big boy. I play on the O-line and he's 10 kilos heavier than me, but he scored 2 amazing touchdowns on Sunday. I'm sure you'll see them on social media if you haven't. But again, you know, I think in particular, Dan Johnson did some freaky things, catching balls off his own feet, catching multiple tip passes. And the Rebels are just so good across the board, right? So I think it was a brilliant game. It was a 140-odd play game, which for us is actually not that many as we play no huddle. But that's typical of an early season game, right? Where you're feeling each other out. The thing I love the most about this league is like every team is different every year. So I can't wait to see the other teams as well, because I think we're all going to bring something different this season. I think it's going to be really exciting to see how it shakes out.
I'm calling it now. You're going to draw with Limerick. You all are going to run the table draws.
Well, I tell you what, like a lot of people in the SBC, I don't know the D1 teams well enough, right? I coach the Wolfhounds. I coach the D-line for the Wolfhounds. And something I'm always saying to people is like, we want to get our eyes on every brilliant player that we can because we want to get everyone good to the Hounds. 100%. What we're missing probably at that level is we don't know everyone. So I can't wait to see what you all are like this year. And I can't wait to steal their tape, Alan, and have a look at UL versus Cork. But I did see in the recent Hounds camp, they have a lot of talented players at running back, at D-line. Like they have a lot of really good young guys, and they have really good SBC coaches, the Liam Ryans of the world, who've been there for far longer than I, right? So I think they're going to be a really dangerous team. And much like when Cork and UCD came up from Division 1, like when you have coaches that have been in SBC before, that really does close that gap, and it makes it quite unusual. I think, to be fair, I think the Westmeath were really good last year. And they're one of the first teams I think that's ever come up without having had a heavy SBC kind of backbone in the coaching staff to do as well as they did, right? So they were outliers last year, and I think that team deserves, and that club deserve a lot of credit for that group of players and coaches. With UL, I think it's a little bit different in that they have guys who've seen this level before. So I think like it's all to play for. And as we saw on the weekend, like it's an exciting kind of thing as a neutral. Well, I'm not a neutral, but for the neutrals to see a draw to start the year, because like, who knows what the season's going to be like? It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, there's so many questions when a draw happens, especially with two teams such as Cork and UL. But staying back on to yourself, I mean, did you going into this? I mean, what give us a bit of an insight into UCD 1 hour before kickoff. You've got the Rebels coming to town. Like, what's the game plan? Is it right to control tie, or is it we need to adjust to do this, or is it we're going to play our own game here?
I think it's a mix of stuff, right? I think like your focus needs to start on yourselves. And I think if you have a high performance culture, it's always, you know, what's happened recently? What are we good at, right? What are we less certain of? And what are we going to hang our hats on? You know, what are the big rocks we're going to really get behind here? I think when it comes to a team with the quality of the Rebels, of course, Ty is going to be a big focus. He's the best player in the league. And I think, out of fairness, with no disrespect to any other coach, he's probably the best coach in the league, judging on last year's results, right? On how effective that offense was. So he's a problem. And I think if you were to say you were playing the Rebels and game plan for the Rebels and pretend that Ty's the same as everyone else, you're probably being a little bit dishonest. You know, so Of course you look to take away what they're good at on offense, which is really hard to do. And we probably didn't because they scored 40 points. And you look to really hang your hat on what you're good at on offense as well. And I think that's what we did.
Yeah, because I mean, I was at the bowl game last year and the year before up at the Kingspan, and the year you won it was literally everything short of goalposts you were throwing at him. So you were just to kind of keep him back. So he's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I gave you some more mad stats, right? So like UCD quietly last year had one of the best boxes on defense I'd ever seen. Okay, so in 8 games in the regular season, we gave up about 273 yards rushing. No, that's a lie. Sorry, we gave up 220 yards rushing in 8 games, right? In the 2 Rebels games that we played, we actually gave up 270 yards. So we were minus 50 yards rushing allowed in 6 games. The only player to score against UCD on the ground in the last 11 games is Ty Henry. Right? So they just do different things that you have to prep for, right? So I think it's and in the same way they run the ball really well against most teams, and against us then they probably pass more. So against really high power teams, you do have to kind of find edges and find ways to kind of really go for where you can see an edge, you know. And then it really, like as we've seen with the scores here, these 2-point swings, we're talking like percentages that are getting us these wins or losses. And in most cases, to be fair to the Rebels, it's been losses over the last few years.
Yeah, the game of inches, as they say. You know, I mean, the are so well matched, and I think everyone does. And you'd be foolish not to play in this league and be like, I don't look forward to watching UCD Rebels. Like, it is just the showcase.
Yeah, and there's been so many brilliant rivalries of different teams over the years, whether it was like the Rebels versus UL days in the late 2000s, or again, you know, the Trojans versus Rebels probably in kind of the early 2010s. And it's just brilliant whenever you get 2 really well-matched teams that are beating the tar out of each other every year. You know, we tend to only get these for like 3-4 year windows too. So I think we've all got to enjoy it while it's going, you know.
Yeah, give someone else a turn.
Razorbacks.
Jets Razorbacks.
Could be.
But no, like as just to sort of stay on subject, but like obviously as a podcast, we have to put up the score updates. So whenever a score comes in, you put up the stories. So the game at Newforge, the Razorbacks finished around just shortly before 3 o'clock. I think at that stage, the Cork game was 24-0. The UCD Rebels game, I think UCD were up by 16. And the Mavericks Eagles game, I think was still 7-0 or very close to it. So me and Chris were thinking we're going to get home nice and early and get nice and warm. No, we stayed to Newforge till about 4:30 in their car park watching the UCD Rebels game on Charmaine's live stream and just crowded around a wee phone, shivering, and then being like, "Oh, UL have come back against Cork," and you have to put up all the score updates. But it was brilliant. It felt like -1. We were freezing. We had just come back from training, but to watch
broken.
Sean McVay being like, "Oh, UCD up by 16, but this is the Rebels. You know, you never know what's going to happen." And just like that, Rebels come back. And then there's another comment to be like, "Oh, Dublin are punting. UCD are getting the ball back with a minute to go and no timeouts." It was almost like, you know, like if you're at a Gaelic match and you have your wee headset on at Croke Park to hear the radio commentary and all. It was as good of an opening weekend of American football in this country that I've experienced. What an advert for it. If we can get some outsiders to look at some of these games and the drama of it. I might have been shivering in the car park a good 2 hours after the game, but my God, I was.
You were giddy. You're actually giddy.
Yeah. Like hopping in the car park. There's so much happening in such one go, but wow, what a game week.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's awesome. And like, you know, we had a lot of guys step up, so we were missing 3 starting offensive linemen in the game. So as Coach Lomasney said earlier, you need a squad, right? We have 7 safeties injured right now, including Alex Kuzmarek, who's kind of the starting free safety for the Wolfhounds. So it's going to be an interesting year. We have 11 under 20s guys who are at the Hounds at the Wolfhounds under 20s trials at the moment. One of them, are not even actually one of them, Arun Sen, a rookie for us, is starting a corner. We have our new kicker is a rookie who's also a defensive lineman. We have Torin Murray, who's injured. He's going to be a sick receiver in this league. Joseph Carroll's probably the best rookie quarterback I've seen. Fionn Meats is having to go on special teams already. So like we have so much talent coming through that we haven't seen yet because almost none of them played versus Rebels. So it's going to be a really cool year to see who ends up good, who ends up, you know, potentially getting an international call up. It's all ahead of us. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah,
it's great to hear you coming through. As always,
we kind of need to, right? Like it's UCD, we're going to lose most people after 3 years. So it's exciting. But
I just hope, Eoin, that some of them are natives of Dundalk.
Yeah, 1 or 2 probably, I'd say. And yeah, so I think it's going to be really cool. I think like I was driving last week because I live in Leitrim now, so I was driving up to Dublin actually on the weekend to play the game. And I was listening to the podcast, and Sean McVay, there was someone honking a horn in his background of his audio, and I thought the whole way to Dublin my boot was open or something. I was paranoid. But I do want to unofficially address some of the Wolfhounds chat from last week because I thought it was a really good conversation, right? Because I was talking to Andy Dennehy, who's the offensive coordinator for the Wolfhounds. I coach the D-line for the Wolfhounds. And I think that the blockers for the Wolfhounds at the moment it's just a lack of awareness. We just haven't seen every player. Right. I think the goal is to be really unambiguous. Like we want to get as many incredible young players as we can onto the Wolfhounds. Right. Like simple as there is no politics. There is no kind of looking after different clubs, etc. Like we want as many brilliant guys as possible with Coach Lomasney in the under 20s and with the senior squad as well. And I certainly do on the defensive line as well. And we're about to call a load of new guys up from those camps, which is really exciting. You know, so the ask is definitely, guys, if you can send us footage, I'll watch anything anyone sends me. I promise, because we're desperate to get you up. I myself made the Wolfhounds. I got to start once, which is unbelievable against Belgium, and I made it through one of these big camps a couple of years ago as well, right? And I was on the outside for 10 years looking in, praying to get in. So like we want you and we want to see you. So please do send us tape because we'll get anyone we can in. We're really keen to see as many players as possible. Sorry, I kind of jammed that one in there, but it was in my agenda. You know?
Yeah, we've unofficially become the Wolfhounds recruitment station. So we have over the last couple of weeks.
Didn't affect our 10 minutes per segment either. That's Wolfhounds talk. That's separate.
We swapped 10 minutes per game.
Yeah.
Then the Wolfhounds took an extra 5. You know what? And that's how the season's laid out. The wee bit at the end.
I had to jump in. I had to ruin the timekeeping. It was too tight.
Yeah.
It's a fair point to be made, though, because that was a big thing last week when we did the hot takes. It was so Hounds heavy, with people saying there was politics and things. Sean McVay came on last week and was saying about how, make yourself known, send us tape. D1 maybe isn't watched an awful lot, but if you feel like you're good enough, get your tape sorted, send it in, and then you'll get tips at the very, very least to be better, and then get into the Hounds.
Just as a PSA, I suppose, both of you guys being with the Wolfhounds at different age levels, literally, where do you want tape sent to? Do you want tape sent to yourself?
Yeah, I'm happy to forward it on to whoever's relevant.
And Alan?
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, send it on to me, and I'll dish it out to our coaches. Yeah.
You want to shout out your dud email address here, just so the young guys get it? Yeah.
Yeah, Alan. It's Alan Lowe at AmericanFootball.ie.
There you go. You heard it here. Maybe first.
Well, they have no excuse now. Send the tape.
Yes, we're actually making it easier for them. See, by the end of the season, we're just going to have like a website.
Official Wolfhounds podcast.
Submissions.
Yeah.
This is like the start of paid recruiting in Ireland. It's disgusting. No, it's good. Please just send it in. We'd love to see it.
We'll put out one of those annuals like they did for the Premier League teams. 100% unofficial.
Awesome.
But yes, I think we're going to end it there. Close to the 40. Not quite, but we got there. But yeah, football's back. Week 1, absolutely electric. Big games all over the show. Tune in on Friday when we'll go through week 2, our predictions. Probably another 10-15 minutes based on the Wolfhounds. But Owen, Alan, thank you again so much for taking the time to come down. Deck, Dave, I'll see you on Friday.
Okay, yeah, I'll see you on Friday.
Probably talk to you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Right, thank you.
Bye-bye.